Hello, Gray. How are you? Welcome to the live. Thank you so much for joining in the live. Have a nice day, Gray. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for asking. I'm good too. Thank you. And next, who's here in the chat? Bye. Have a nice day. And who's here in the chat? Drop your name. Hello, Azerbaijan. How are you? Thank you so much for joining in the live. Have a nice day. Please like the live. Tap on the screen. Like the live. Okay, next name is who's here in the chat. Hello, Ikra. How are you? Thank you, Ikra, for joining VC 2026. And next name is Jacqueline in the chat. How are you? And next name is Hello Usman. How are you? And next name is Factor in the chat. Hello, how are you? And I see Horace in the chat. Hello, Horace. And here is Turkey in the chat. Thank you so much for joining in the live. No, I'm not Indian. I'm Pakistani. And next name is I see Kya Gang Team. Thank you so much for joining in the live. Have a great day. And next name is Tokyamo. How are you? And next name is I see. Here is Latifa in the chat. How are you? And next name is Cassie. How are you? Thank you so much for joining in the live. And next name is and I see Santi in the chat. You're welcome. Hello, Kiki. How are you? And I see Yaya in the chat. Hello, Yaya. How are you? And next, who joined the live is Kathleen in the chat. Hello, Kathleen. How are you? And here is Mubin in the chat. Hello, Mubin. And I see Cathy in the chat. Hello, Cathy. how are you? And I see Davina, how are you? Thank you so much for joining in the live. Next name is Maker in the chat. Hello, Maker. And here is Mubin in the chat. Thank you, Mubin. Next name is, and I see. And so, yeah, thank you so much for joining in the live. Have a great day. And I see Putri in the chat. Thank you so much for joining in the live. Hello, Lan. How are you? And I see Daisy in the chat. Hello, Daisy. How are you? Next name is also. Thank you so much for joining in the live. Hello, Emma. How are you? Welcome to the live. Next name is Aruj in the chat. Hello, Aruj. Have a great day. Hello, Rubab. How are you? And I see here is Davina in the chat. Hello, Davina. How are you? And I see Santi in the chat. Welcome to the live. And I see Juliana in the chat. Hello, how are you? Hello, Basma. How are you? Next name is Isha in the chat. Hello, Isha. How are you? Next name is Shali. Isha in the chat. Thank you so much. I don't know what you said. Please drop your name. What's your name? And I see Rohan in the chat. Hello, Rohan. How are you? And I see Mimi in the chat. Hello, Mimi. How are you? And who's here in the chat? Momina in the chat. Hit the 10 likes, guys. Hello, Momina. How are you? Next name is Hello, Kabir. Thank you, Kabir, for joining in the live. And I see here is people in the chat. Hello, how are you? Okay, Maka, it's your birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Maka. How are you? Thank you so much for joining the live. Next name is Tommy in the chat. Hello, Tommy. How are you? And I see Alice in the chat. Thank you, Alice. Have a great day. And next name is Abdul Wahab. How are you? And here is Aishu in the chat. Hello, Aishu. How are you? Hello, Hayan. Thank you so much Thank you everyone for joining in the live. And next name is Dolly in the chat. Hello Dolly. And Ika in the chat. Hello Ika. How are you? And here is, and I see Sarin in the chat. Hello, how are you? Thank you so much for joining in the live. And Immune, thank you so much for joining in the live. Have a great day. And here is Dolly in the chat. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ashley, for joining in the live. And I see Afifa in the chat. Hello, how are you? Thank you, Lexi. Welcome back to the live. And I see Sunny D in the chat. Hello, how are you? Okay, here is Afifa. Thank you so much for joining in the live. Thank you, Kamla, for joining in the live. Okay, Achaya, I wrote your name. Thank you so much for being in the live. And here is Hipsa in the chat. Hello, Hipsa. And okay, sorry, Kamala. Thank you so much for joining in the live. And here is Bia in the chat. Hello, Bia. How are you? And I see Aisha in the chat. You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you, Aisha. And next name is Lynn in the chat. And next name is Aidan. How are you, Aidan? Thank you so much. And here is Hamna in the chat. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. And I see who's here. Hello, Grace. How are you? Thank you so much for joining in the live. Okay, I put it wrong. Thank you so much. And next name is Queen Marisha. Thank you so much for being in the live. And here is Aisha in the chat. Hello, Aisha. And I see Hikran in the chat. How are you? And next name is Hello, Ishan. Thank you. Welcome to the live. And I see how are you? Thank you. Reply. You're welcome. Hello, Flo in the chat. Thank you so much for joining in the live. And Naita, how are you? Thank you so much. Okay, it's a Florencia. Thank you so much for being in the live. And next, I see Ladon. Thank you so much for joining in the live. Have a lovely day. Hello, Umema. How are you, Umema? Next, I see Zokte in the live. Thank you so much. And here I see Ranjingpa. Thank you so much for joining in the live. Have a great day. And here is Baiza in the chat. Hello, Baiza. How are you? And I see Lucia in the chat. Next name is who's there? Who's here? You're welcome. You're welcome. Isin. How are you, Isin? Thank you so much. And here next name is Aisha. How are you, Aisha? And here Aryan in the chat. Hello Aryan, how are you? Next name is Isin in the chat. Welcome to the live. Next name is Jandy. Thank you, Jandy, for joining in the live. And I see here is Sanvi in the chat. Hello, Sanvi. Thank you, Umema, for joining in the live. And here is Silsil Lancake. Thank you so much for joining in the live. Have a great day. And next name is Jisoo. Hello Jisoo, how are you? Welcome to the live, Jisoo. And here next name is Hello Dira, how are you? And I see Susan in the chat. Thank you so much. Next name is Mina in the chat. Hello Mina. How are you? Next name is Aban in the chat. Hello Aban. Next name is Lisa. How are you, Lisa? Thank you, Lisa, for joining in the live. And here is Nadila in the chat. Thank you. Next name is Hello Tanvi. How are you? And here is Ibrak. Thank you, Ibrak, for joining in the live. Have a great day. And here is Hilal in the chat. Thank you, Hilal. And next name is Sirija. How are you? Thank you, Sirija, for joining in the live. Thank you, as Chief Queen. Thank you so much. Thank you, Londa in the chair. How are you? Here's Sweeter in the chair. Thank you, Sweeter. And next name is Isma in the chair. Thank you, Isma. And here is Yao in the chat. Thank you so much for joining in the live. And here is Anshla, Cici. And next name is Sophia in the chat. Hello, Sophia. How are you? And I see here is Isa in the chat. Hello, Isa. Next name is Natasha in the chat. Hello, Natasha. How are you? Voltics, thank you so much for joining in the live. Have a lovely day. And next, who's here? Hello, Bella. How are you, Bella? Thank you so much for joining. Thank you, Rick, in the chat. How are you? And next name is Vidya in the chat. Dior. Next name is Dior in the chat. Hello, how are you? And here is Asia in the chat. Thank you so much for joining in the live. Next name is Kuku in the chat. And next name is Mama Cantic. And next name is Europe in the chat. Hello, how are you? Next name is Yuri in the chat. Hello, Yuri. How are you? Next name is Sanskar in the chat. Hello, how are you? Thank you so much for joining in the live. Thank you, Martina. And next name is who's here in the chat? Nazreen. Hello, Nazreen. How are you? Thank you so much for joining in the live. And next name is Hello, Sifa. How are you? Next name is Hello, Usman. Thank you so much for joining in the live. Have a great day. And here is Hang Young in the chat. Thank you. Welcome to the live. And next name is Ramsha in the chat. Hello, Ramsha. And here next name is Shifa in the chat. Thank you, Shifa. And next name is I'm going on my way home. And next name is Maida in the chat. Hello, Maida. And next name is Darren. Thank you, Darren, for joining in the live. And next name is Tanjiro and Nazrin. Thank you so much. And I see here is and I see Mashfiq in the chat. Hello, how are you? Next name is Afan in the chat. Hello, Afan. Next name is Sylvie in the chat. And next name is Shifat in the chat. Hello, Shifat. Okay, Coco, I wrote your name once again. Next, I see Vincent in the chat. Thank you so much for joining in the live. And here is Sabrina in the chat. Hello, Sabrina. How are you? Albiru and Ziad. Thank you so much for joining in the live. Have a great day. And next name is Lucy in the chat. Hello, Lucy. Next name is Rahman in the chat. And I see Awais in the chat. Hello, Awais. How are you? Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. And here is Mario in the chat. Hello, Mario. Thank you so much. And here is Shilpa J Hope in the chat. Thank you so much for joining in the live. Next name is Kobe in the chat. And next name is Yusma in the chat. Hello, how are you? And here is Asura in the chat. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Ali, for liking and subscribing. Thank you so much. And next name is, who joined the live is Danielle. Thank you so much for joining in the live. Have a great day. And next name is Ashvi in the chat. Hello, Ashvi. And I see Afifa in the chat. Thank you. And who's there in the chat? Okay, always one more time. Your name is here in the board. Thank you so much. And I see Raina in the chat. Hello, how are you? And I see Prachi. Welcome to the live, Prachi. And I see Aisha in the chat. Hello, Aisha. And next name is Hala in the chat. Hello, Hala. How are you? Next name is Cassie Shaw in the chat. Hello, how are you? And next name is Umes in the chat. Hello, Umes. And next name is Hikmat in the chat. Hello, Hikmat. How are you? And I see Banu in the chat. Thank you so much. And here is Zaira in the chat. Thank you, Zaira. And Flower, welcome to the live. Thank you so much. And I see Manav in the chat. Hello, Manav. And Mirhud. Thank you so much for joining in the live. And next name is Inyod. How are you? Thank you so much for joining in the live. Have a nice day. Thank you so much. And I see Haskell in the chat. Thank you. And here is Michael Iglo. Thank you so much for joining in the live. Hello, Maya. How are you, Maya? And I see here is Tosif in the chat. Hello, Tosif. And I see Laiba in the chat. Hello, Laiba. And here is Ikra in the chat. Hello, Ikra. Thank you, Ikra. Hello, Alok. How are you? And I see Shifat in the chat. Hello, Shifat. How are you? And I see Messi in the chat. Hello, Messi. And here is Juhi in the chat. And next name is Jungkook. Thank you so much for joining in the live. And next to who's here, Tron in the chat. Welcome to the live. And here is Shamut in the chat. Thank you so much. And next who's here in the chat? Lolo in the chat. Next name is who joined the live is next who joined the live is drop your name. Hello Mario. Thank you so much for joining the live. Thank you for hi. Thank you so much for joining in the live. Next who joined the live is drop your name. He's here in the chat. And here is Hugo. Thank you, Hugo, for joining in the live. Hello, how are you? And here is Fiona in the chat. Hello, Fiona. And next, I see holy shit. And next name is Sonia in the chat. Hello, Sonia. How are you? And next name is Farhan. Thank you so much. In the line, next name is Maria. Next name is Aisha in the chat. Hello, Aisha. Next name is Susan in the chat. The line. And we have RDI. Thank you so much. Next name is Suru in the chat. And next name is Zen in the chat. Hi, who's here? Drop your name. Foryou in the chat. And next name is Scarlett in the chat. How are you, Scarlett? And Ramin in the chat. Hello, Ramin. Thank you so much. Thank you, Tanjiro in the chat. You're welcome. You're welcome. Next name is Leo in the chat. And next name is Goju in the chat. And here is Alice in the chat. Hello Arslan, my own subscriber is here. Hello Arslan, how are you? Welcome to the live. Thank you so much for joining in the live. And next name is who's here in the chat? Morning in the chat. Hello morning. How are you? Hello Arjun. Thank you so much for joining in the live. And here is Han. Ji-san in the chat. Hello, how are you? Welcome to the live. Leah in the chat. Thank you so much. Okay, guys, I am going to end the live. Thank you. What I'm doing is Irkan. Okay, guys, I'm going to end the live. Thanks for watching. See you in the next live, guys. Bye, everyone. Bye. Thank you. Thank you.